But before we start, we're delighted to announce that Taubmans have come on as our short sponsor for the next 2 seasons. So obviously an Australian brand around since 1897, Australian made paint. So if anybody out there, certainly all the Lions supporters and anybody else that is doing a bit of DIY or anything else, Taubmans is the go. And we're really pleased to have them on board because, without being too silly about it, they are an iconic Australian brand, and we think we're an iconic Australian football club. So it's a good match, and we're looking forward to obviously certainly the next 2 years, and hopefully way past that as well. So I might just hand over to David Nichols, who will just give you a bit more about Taubmans, and then Fags will come on. So thanks, David.
Yeah, 2 iconic Australian brands. We've been making paint in Australia since 1897. It'd be remiss of me though not to mention our paint drive, which is our In It Together campaign with the charity Give It. Between now and the end of April, every can of 4 litres in Taubmans Endure, Taubmans All Weather, Easy Coat and Sunproof goes towards a donation to help rebuild Australian communities impacted by drought, fire and flood. So really excited for that campaign, which flows well in with our values of community and working around Australia. So I'll hand it back over to what you're actually going to say.
Yeah, I mean it's a big thing that getting a new sponsor on board, considering the business climate, the world climate in the last 12 months, to attract new sponsors. You must be doing something right on the field.
Oh yeah, we're doing some things right on the field, and we're doing a lot of things right off the field too. I think that shouldn't be forgotten. Swanee and his team have done a brilliant job, and hopefully over the last couple of years we've given them a better product to promote. And when those 2 things work together, then you get a good result. So we're really happy to have Taubmans on board, as we are with all of our other sponsors. We've had quite a few new ones over the last 12 months, and they're all really important to us. And it's a credit to the players really for the way they've gone about playing the game.
Figured out who's going to take Cameron's spot?
Well, there's a bit of discussion still to go, because the weather could play a factor in that tomorrow night. There's a little bit of rain around, so we've had a lot of young blokes that have been in good form across the course of the pre-season. Reece Matheson's played really well. Eli Smith, Tom Joyce, Tom Berry, Cam Ellis-Yeoman, Harry Sharp has played well. So we just got to work out the type that we want in the game tomorrow night, because it might get a bit wet. So we'll have a bit of a think about that this afternoon. We've got the luxury now, we don't have to put the team in until Friday night before a Saturday game. So that's where we're at with it at the moment.
Zork said yesterday that Sharp was a huge chance to debut. I think that would come as a surprise to a lot of people just because of his age, but his performances in the pre-season must have really impressed you. Yeah, I think he did well, and then he got the opportunity when Cam Rayner went off in the Gold Coast game, and he probably did better than we expected. To be quite truthful, we gave him that opportunity thinking he might get 15 minutes of a game and just get a little bit of a taste of AFL football that would help him with his development. But as it turned out, he got 2.5 quarters and had quite an impact. So he certainly came from a long way back before that game, and he's now put himself in the frame along with 5 or 6 others.
Is that something you would look to do regularly, Vegas? You're suggesting the weather might play a factor, or a final spot in the team. Might that be like a revolving door, but is it up for grabs sort of on a week-to-week basis?
Possibly it could be, as long as we're not breaking any rules. So yeah, it could be. Yeah.
How much does the sub factor into that? I mean, the injury sub, and who's going to be that 23rd guy? Do they need to be really flexible in what position, or is it just the next guy who didn't make the list?
The answer to that is, I think we'll probably work that out as we go along. Who would have thought that Oscar McDonald could come on and make an impact last night as a big tall forward, but he did. And you probably wouldn't think he's the prototype for that. Logically, you'd think guys that can play in a number of positions is probably the way to go. But that may not always be the case, because you may have flexibility within your own team that you can move other guys around and bring that guy in as a specialist. So we'll learn about that as the weeks go on, I imagine.
Based on that, watching last night, did you probably come away with more questions and answers if you're trying to figure out how to sort of exploit that? There's new rules the best.
I'm not actually trying to exploit them. I'm just trying to follow them, to be truthful. I mean, the AFL, we had a conversation as a coaching group with the AFL the other day, and they, in good faith, have brought that sub in. So I'd be disappointed if coaches then tried to exploit that rule to their advantage. My understanding is it's only blokes that genuinely can't continue to play, and that's the way that we'll be approaching it.
Folks, everyone I've spoken to the last few weeks has the first name they've mentioned as a player to possibly take camp is Reece Matheson. He must have really impressed with the training track this season.
Yeah, he's had a great pre-season. He did a lot of work before Christmas. He's improved his running. He played well in the practice games in the lead up to the season. So he's done all that he can to put his hand up for selection, without a doubt.
He admitted the other day that he had conversations with the coaching staff at the end of last season saying he needed to be more flexible, not just playing midfield, that he played off half back or on the forward line or on the wing. Has he done enough to show you that he could do those things this season?
Yeah, he's shown a little bit in the forward line. We've sort of tried him as midfield forward player. Wing might be a spot for him too, down the track that we explore a little bit. So no, and it's so important now in modern day footy. You can't have too many blokes that just one position players in your team. They've got to be able to move around and help you out wherever and whenever it's required. Yeah, Tom Fullerton will play that role. Tom's had a great pre-season as well. He's a young player that we really enjoyed his couple of games that he played last year, and then he got a hamstring injury early in the game against Collingwood and wasn't able to get back into the team. It took his hamstring a long time to get right. So, but his form and his training over the summer's been great, and he'll get the nod there.
You can tell it, the way he played against the Suns, it
Oh no,
was like that tall.
yeah, no, he's well and truly healed now. So no, he's a handy player both in the air and at ground level, and he's a good backup ruckman as well.
So considering the weather, will you play 2 rucks and 2 forwards?
We've only got one ruck, and that's Oscar. The rest of them, Fullerton, Hipwood and Danaher, we really count them as forwards who can pinch hit in the ruck if we need them to.
So you'll play 4-4. You'll play those 4 guys.
Yep.
And Payne, Jack Payne, would he be the logical replacement for Gardner?
Yeah, well, Jack's played all the pre-season games there, so yeah, he's earned a spot. He actually played really well towards the end of the year last year and was one of our better players in the prelim final against Geelong. So, and he's progressed again this summer, so we're looking forward to his input.
It's just on Harry, the balancing act between school and training. You obviously can't train every time you guys do, can you?
No, he doesn't. He's got alternative arrangements. He trains with us whenever he can. So, for instance, we trained in the afternoon after school yesterday, so he was able to train with us. But on Tuesday we trained in the morning. So he got up at 5 and came down and trained, and he was finishing off as our blokes were arriving. So he's living a bit of a life like that. Takes a bit of coordination. Scotty Borlays and Andrew Crowd do a really good job at coordinating what he does. Sometimes he can do weights with the group, other times he has to do weights on his own. But the one thing you can be sure of with Harry is that he's doing everything that he should be doing, and he's not taking any shortcuts either with his football or his study.
He's living at extremes.
Yeah, and we've got to watch his energy during the year. His priority is to get his year 12. He's an intelligent young bloke, and we want to make sure that he's got that behind him before he sort of goes on with his footy career.
What's impressed you the most?
Oh, because he's been an elite athlete, he understands how to train and prepare at the elite level, whatever sport it is. And he's brought, for an 18-year-old, his professionalism is incredible.
Eli Smith was another one you mentioned as a possible Cam Miranda replacement. What have you been impressed from him in this pre-season that you haven't seen from him in the last couple of years when he hasn't been able to go game?
He went home to Yarrawonga and trained on his own. He's done that every other year, and probably hasn't come back in poor shape, but he hasn't come back in the best shape that he could be. Whereas this year he was outstanding when he came back, so he's really trained hard and looked after himself. So he's given himself the best chance to realise his talent, and that has shown through in his practice match form and his training since he came back. So it sometimes takes young blokes 2 or 3 years to figure out how you need to train to play football at the top level, and the penny certainly dropped with him on that. Really good attitude to learn and improve.
There's a headline or a thought coming out of Melbourne this week that the Lions are too nice.
The only way that we can respond is by the way that we perform on the field. I'm not going to get caught up in that debate. We've been following a pathway for the last 4 years which has served us well. We've come from a team that lived down the bottom of the ladder for a long time to a team that's now challenging. So I don't think there's any softness around that, and we'll just continue to grow and develop, and know that with every experience that we get, we'll become a little bit harder. You know, some of those teams like Richmond and Geelong that, you know, we get compared to, it wasn't that long ago that Richmond lost 3 elimination finals in a row and then didn't make finals, and then through those experiences it hardened them up to become 3 out of 4 years the most recent premiers. And Geelong the same, you know, they've perennially made finals, lots and lots of prelim finals, and that hardens you, and we're still going through that process. We're a young team. I think we're still the 4th youngest. We've still got a lot of guys in our team tomorrow that wouldn't have played 10 AFL games, so guys like Fullerton and Kadeem Coleman, Jack Payne are an example of that. So we're still growing and developing. They can say what they like. We'll just keep following our own path, which is what we've done for the last 4 years, and it's served us well.
What sort of improvements were you looking to make working with Stephen Kearney?
Yeah, well, just again, we really wanted to have a look at our tackling technique and try to make sure that we stick more tackles, and also a little bit of work on evading tackles and breaking tackles. So I wouldn't have thought that was all that unusual, but you can learn a little bit from rugby league because that's their main area. So he worked with our coaching group, not with our players. He did that prior to venturing back down to Melbourne, where he's now an assistant coach at Melbourne Storm. But his input was invaluable, and hopefully, we can see the benefits of some of that in the way that we play this year.